Hi, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Moore here, and today I get to teach you lesson 2 of our geometry lessons. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify quadrilaterals. You will also be able to describe the attributes of quadrilaterals. As always, would you please make sure you get out a notebook, a piece of paper, or your math packet with a pencil so that you're able to participate with me today. So boys and girls, we're going to start by reviewing what we learned during yesterday's lesson and what you already know. Yesterday we learned all about different kinds of polygons. You know that a polygon is just a closed shape with 3 or more angles. Pause the video and see if you can remember some of the polygons we learned about yesterday. You're right. We learned about triangles, quadrilaterals, pentagons, hexagons, and octagons yesterday. We also learned that sides are just any line segment with 2 endpoints. Any place a line changes direction is a new side. We also learned that angles are just formed when 2 sides meet or come together. And we remember angles as the corner because it looks like a corner of a shape. The reason the rest of this slide is covered is because I have a task for you. Based on what we learned yesterday, I would like for you to draw a rectangle and label the sides and angles of that rectangle. Wonderful work. Compare yours to mine. You'll see that a rectangle has 4 sides. It has 4 line segments with endpoints. In any place the line segment changes direction, it's a new side. It also has 4 angles, which are formed when 2 sides meet or come together. Wonderful work. I have something else for you to review based on what we learned yesterday. Would you please pause this video and tell me the name of these polygons and any characteristics you remember about these polygons? Write them down, please. If you need help, use your polygon vocabulary resource to help remind you about these attributes. Pause the video and get started. You are exactly right. This is a pentagon. The reason it is a pentagon is because, as you noticed, it has 5 sides and 5 angles. This is a triangle. And the reason that this is a triangle is because it has 3 sides and 3 angles. An octagon has 8 sides and 8 angles. What's the name of this shape? And how do you know? Say it with me. Hexagon, because it has 6 sides and 6 angles. And last but not least, what is this shape called? You're right. It's a quadrilateral, and it's the shape we will be really focusing on today. A quadrilateral has 4 sides and 4 angles. You know that all of these shapes are classified as polygons because for a shape to be considered a polygon, it just needs to be a closed shape with 3 or more angles. These are all closed shapes with at least 3 angles. So, in order to really understand and describe the attributes of quadrilaterals, we need to learn some new wonderful vocabulary. The first thing we're going to learn about today is a special type of angle, or angles are the 2 places where 2 sides come together, or the corner. The type of angle we're learning about today is called a right angle. A right angle is a very specific type of angle. It's an angle of 90 degrees, as in the corner of a square, or where two perpendicular straight lines come together or meet or intersect. The way that I really remember right angles is by thinking of the corner of a piece of paper. All of the corners of a piece of paper are perfect right angles. Two straight perpendicular lines meet and form the angle. I know that this is a right angle because it's where two straight lines come together. This is also a right angle because you'll notice that this is a perfectly straight line and it's perpendicular to this line, and it's the point where they come together, like a perfect corner on a square or any rectangle. Wonderful. And always check by holding up a piece of paper right in the corner and seeing if that angle is the intersection of two perpendicular straight lines. So look at your packet and point to the very corners. All of those angles are right angles. Hold them up and check these angles to see that they're the same. Wonderful. The other word we're going to learn about today is parallel. Parallel means always the same distance apart. We're going to learn specifically about parallel sides. Well, boys and girls, you know that sides are line segments, right? So parallel sides are sides that are always the same distance apart. I know that side A and side C are parallel. And the reason that they're parallel is because they are going the exact same direction. And if they continued on, they would always stay the same distance apart. So A and C are parallel sides. B and D are not parallel. And they're not parallel because they're not facing the exact same direction. If they continued on, they would intersect. They would not stay the same distance apart. They would actually get closer together. So they're not parallel. Pause the video and think about why sides A and C are parallel, but B and D aren't. You're right. A and C are parallel because they would always stay the same distance apart. They're facing that exact same direction. B and D are not the same distance apart. They would eventually get closer together and even intersect or cross. I'm impressed with your listening. So let's apply what we know about parallel sides into a new type of shape we're learning about today. Parallelograms. Say that with me. Parallelograms. A parallelogram is a four-sided shape that has to have two pairs of parallel sides. So it has to have two pairs of sides that are always the same distance apart. Well, let's look closely at these parallelograms and think about why they're classified as parallelograms. This is the first parallelogram we'll look at. To be a parallelogram, there has to be two pairs of parallel sides. So I see right away that A and C are parallel. That means that they will always be the same distance apart. So you notice that A and C are going the same direction, and they would always stay the same distance apart. B and D are also parallel. No matter how long the lines continued, they would stay the same distance apart. So I know it's a parallelogram because every side has a parallel partner. A and C are parallel partners. What is B's parallel partner? That's going the exact same direction and will always stay the same distance apart. You're right, B and D are parallel because no matter what, they would never get closer together or farther apart. They're going to stay the same distance apart. Pause the video and tell me, why is this square also a parallelogram? You're right, third graders. This square is a parallelogram because each side has a parallel side partner. A and C are parallel, look, they would never get closer together. They're moving the exact same direction and they're staying the same distance apart. B and D are also parallel. So for a shape to be considered a parallelogram, it needs to be four-sided or a quadrilateral, and every side needs to have another side that's parallel to it. It needs to have a parallel partner or a parallel side. This shape is not a parallelogram. You might be thinking, but Mrs. Moore, it does have some parallel sides. Well, you're right. A has a parallel partner. What is A's parallel partner? C. Look, C is going the exact same direction as A. You're right that there is a pair of parallel sides. A and C are parallel, but D and B are not parallel. The reason they're not parallel, boys and girls, is because look, if they continued on, they would not stay the same distance apart. Look, they would actually get closer together and intersect. So this quadrilateral isn't a parallelogram. Pause the video and compare and contrast shapes that are parallelogram and shapes that are not. You're exactly right. Shapes that are parallelograms, they must have two pairs of parallel sides. Shapes that are not parallelograms either have no pairs of parallel sides or just one. But to be a parallelogram, the quadrilateral has to have two pairs of parallel sides like these ones. Okay, third grade friends. Today we are learning all about quadrilaterals, and you're going to need to be able to look at a shape and say, is this shape a quadrilateral or is it not a quadrilateral? So we know a quadrilateral is just any four-sided polygon. These shapes are all quadrilaterals. Pause the video and write down why all of these shapes are quadrilaterals. Great work! They are all quadrilaterals because all of the shapes on this page have four sides and four angles. Any shape with four sides and four angles is called that's right, it's called a quadrilateral. We're going to focus on some very specific types of quadrilaterals. The quadrilaterals we're going to focus on today are squares, rectangle, rhombuses or rhombi, or trapezoids. So a square is a type of quadrilateral. Why is a square a type of quadrilateral? You're right, because it has four sides. A square is also a parallelogram because it has two pairs of parallel sides. Look, does this side have a parallel side that's the same direction? Yes. And these two sides are parallel as well. To be a square, a quadrilateral has to have four sides that are all equal length. So you'll notice that this side length is the exact same size as this side length. They're the exact same because to be a square, all four sides need to be equal lengths. Oh my goodness, it also has that special type of angle we talked about. Remember, a right angle is an angle where two perpendicular straight lines come together, just like the corner of a paper. Yes, it has four of those types of angles. 1, 2, 3, 4. A rectangle is also a parallelogram because a rectangle also has two pairs of parallel sides. Look, these two sides are parallel. They would never get closer together. They're going the same direction. And these two sides are parallel. Something that's special about rectangles is their opposite sides are always equal length. So if this side length was 4 inches, then its opposite parallel side would also be 4 inches. If this one was 2 inches, its opposite parallel side would also have to be 2 inches. The opposite parallel sides must be equal length. Just like a square, it also has to have 4 of those right angles where two perpendicular straight lines come together. Awesome. The next thing we're going to learn about is the rhombus. A rhombus is also a parallelogram. Pause the video and tell me, why is a rhombus a parallelogram? You're right. It's a parallelogram because it has two pairs of parallel sides. This side is parallel with this side, and these two sides are parallel. Like a square, rhombus have four sides that are all equal lengths. Wonderful job. Last, we're going to learn about the trapezoid. A trapezoid is not a parallelogram. Study the trapezoid and tell me why it's not a parallelogram. You're exactly right. It's not a parallelogram because it only has one pair of parallel sides. These two sides are parallel. These two sides are not. They are actually getting closer together, and they would eventually cross. To be a trapezoid, they only need to have two sides that are equal length. On your task today, you're going to look at shapes and you're going to tell me, are they quadrilaterals or are they not quadrilaterals? Well, what are quadrilaterals? How many sides do quadrilaterals have? Say it out loud. Yes, quadrilaterals have four sides and they're closed shapes, so they're polygons. Let's sort these together. Maybe let's do one together and you'll do the rest by yourself. Let's look at this shape. Let's count the number of sides. So I'm going to put the dot there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. Is a five-sided shape a quadrilateral? No. How many sides does a quadrilateral actually have? You're right, it has four sides. So this shape isn't a quadrilateral because it has five sides. Do you remember the name of a shape with five sides? That's right, it is a pentagon. You guys sort these for me and pause the video. Great work, you're right. This shape is a quadrilateral because it has four sides. This shape is not a quadrilateral. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, making it a hexagon, which isn't a quadrilateral. Is this guy a quadrilateral? Which column would I put it in? Quadrilateral or not a quadrilateral? You're right. I would put it in the quadrilateral column because it does have four sides and four angles. Third graders, I get to introduce the assignment that you're doing today. Then you get started. For your assignment today, you're going to look at different shapes and you're going to decide whether each shape is a quadrilateral. If it is, you're going to say yes. If it's not, you're going to put an X in the no box. Then you're going to explain your answer. So this first shape, and I can write on it so I can double check. Is this first shape a quadrilateral? Well, let's count. How many sides does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many angles does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it a quadrilateral? Yes, it's a quadrilateral because it has four sides and four angles. Wonderful. Let's do this one together. How many sides does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many angles does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is this shape a quadrilateral? No, it is not a quadrilateral. And the reason it's not a quadrilateral is because this shape has 5 sides and 5 angles. So I would mark no, and that's what you guys are going to get to do. And when it says why, I would say this shape is not a quadrilateral. It's a pentagon because it has 5 sides and 5 angles. Okay, boys and girls, get started on your assignment. The rest you will complete by yourself. Then check it very carefully and turn it into your teacher. We cannot wait to see your work. Thank you for your fantastic listening.